When buying a home, we often talk about mortgage payments, principal and interest, taxes for the home, but not too often do we talk about home insurance. And that's why in today's video, we're diving right into that topic. I'm Aneury Evangelista, a New York City tri-state area real estate broker. And on this channel, I like to dive into the questions that are left unanswered. Today's topic, home insurance. Let's get to it. Whether you're buying your first home or just looking to revisit your home insurance for an existing home, these are the key things to keep in mind when doing so. First up, when looking at home insurance, shop around. It's very important that you compare different quotes from different companies to make sure that you are getting a good deal. Don't go with the first quote that you get, even if it's a quote from an existing insurance provider. You'll be surprised how many times I've gotten a quote, say from like a Geico, who I have my insurance through, and it's a lot higher than going through somebody else, like perhaps a Progressive or somebody else who I don't currently work with. When selecting a home insurance, it's important to take into account coverage limits, deductibles, and most importantly, the reputation of the firm you're working with. You want to make sure that you have enough protection to take care of what's important to you and that you're not overpaying for it. But to understand the level of protection that you're getting and to make sure that you're not overpaying, you have to make it a practice to get multiple quotes each time you shop for home insurance. Just because you have insurance through a certain company for perhaps car or something else doesn't mean they may be the best choice to get home insurance from. Shop around. You'll be surprised how many times and how many hundreds of dollars I saved personally by not going through the same insurance company that I thought I should have. When looking at home insurance, there are many things to look at, but let's break it down into just a few of the elements that are important to keep in mind. First is dwelling coverage. And just like it sounds, it's the coverage for your home. How much are they going to insure you for the home that you live in? So if you pay X amount of money for this home and you want to make sure that you can cover that again if you need to rebuild that home, make sure that that number is sufficient for your current market to rebuild. Additionally, you may see things like extended dwelling coverage that can bridge the gap should you not have enough coverage limit in that first line item. If you have a detached garage or perhaps a few sheds in the backyard, then you want to make sure that you have other structured coverage. That garage not attached to your dwelling is not covered by your dwelling coverage. It has to be covered by a separate line item. So make sure you have that. Liability coverage is just that. It's liability. What happens if somebody trips and falls in your house? What happens if you have a contractor or somebody, a friend or family or neighbor on your lawn and they get hit by something? That is liability. And you want to make sure that you have enough of it. Coverage, that is. But having dwelling and liability coverage is not the end of it. You want to make sure you have personal property coverage. What happens if the house was on fire and where's all your stuff? It's gone. And you want to make sure that it's covered. Your dwelling coverage will not cover it. Your liability coverage will not cover it. Your additional structured coverage will not cover it. You need personal property coverage. So make sure that if you have a lot of expensive stuff in the home, that you have enough of a margin, enough of a limit in your personal property coverage to make you whole. This said, that does not include jewelry and computers, things like that. That's a separate line item. So make sure you have that too if you have a bunch of jewelry or tech equipment in your home. But taking a step back to liability coverage, do you know that that does not cover medical expenses? So if somebody gets injured on your property, make sure you have medical coverage as well and a good limit at that. And not to be left out, this is one of the most important ones as well. Make sure that you have loss of use coverage. That is, if an earthquake happens or something happens, well, if it's an earthquake, separate coverage. Keep that in mind. But what happens if you can no longer live in that property? If you cannot live in the property because something happened to it and it's not inhabitable anymore, you have to have somewhere to go and live, right? Like a hotel or something. You need to have loss of use coverage to have that covered. That way, if you have to stay in a hotel for 6 months, your insurance company can pay for it. If you do not have loss of use coverage, then you're out of luck and out of your own money. And all that money comes out of pocket. This is especially helpful for investment properties. I personally had a property that went up in flames and all of my tenants were displaced. And yes, that sucked. Thanks to the adequate coverage and loss of use coverage, I was able to not only make myself whole again, help my tenants find a replacement place, but also get paid all that rent that I was missing on because I had loss of use coverage. This is great for investments, but also for personal properties as well. And as you've seen, there's different coverage and different insurance options for different things. This includes earthquakes and floods. While earthquakes are not as common around here, one just recently happened not long ago, and not having earthquake insurance, had something happen and your home had been damaged, would have been a horrible thing. Flood insurance, on the other hand, is very common here, and you need to make sure that if you're buying a home, that you look at the FEMA flood map to ensure that your home is not in a flood area. And if it is, plan to get flood insurance coverage as well. If you're interested to find out if a home is near or requires flood insurance, then go to fema.gov/flood maps. There, you're able to use the MSC tool, put in the address, and it'll show you a cool map with your home in the middle or your prospect home and whether or not it's in a flood area. If it is, you need flood insurance. A few other things to keep in mind, or a few add-ons that you can get to home insurance that will protect you and that I highly advise on are the following. Get water backup coverage. This happened to me personally and to so many others out there that I know. If something happens with your sewer line and all that yucky water comes back into your home, unless you have water backup coverage. And did you know that you can also get identity theft coverage in tandem with your home insurance coverage? That's right. If something happens to your identity, then your home insurance can cover it. Taking a step back, this is something that's very important that I forgot to mention. Personal property coverage does not just limit itself to things in your home. If you have personal property, say in your vehicle, perhaps a very expensive laptop, and your vehicle is broken into, then your personal property insurance coverage will cover that as well. The theme here is that there are just so many add-ons and bolt-ons and all these different options in your home insurance that are not just limited to the property itself. The theme here is that there's just so many add-ons that are part or can be part of your home insurance coverage that you may not be aware of, that you should really take the time to sit down and explore. Simple things that would add just a few dollars to your overall bill, but that can save you thousands down the line. And understanding them and knowing what you get can save you hundreds, if not thousands down the line. Typically, when I buy insurance, I like to go to an insurance broker or at the very least, get multiple quotes from multiple places. This way, I can get different perspectives, compare one to the other, see who's giving me what, and ask questions. Before I ever decide on which insurance policy I want to go with for a new property, I ask a ton of questions, and I look through those quotes in and out several times. And if you're doing the same thing right now, feel free to drop a comment below, and I'll be more than happy to help you. Home insurance can get very complicated with all the add-ons that you can have added onto it, but it's one of the most important things you can have for one of the biggest investments of your life. Do not skimp out on coverage. Make sure that you have adequate and enough coverage to protect your investment. But in doing so, make sure that you do not overpay. Again, I mentioned the example of my home that went up in flames. I fell victim to not having enough dwelling coverage. But luckily, looking at my policy, I found a line that gave me extended replacement cost coverage, which bridged the gap. And combine that with the loss of use coverage, I was able to not just help myself in terms of the revenue that I was losing from my investments, but help my tenants as well who were displaced and had nowhere to go. Whether you're a home buyer or an investor, having adequate coverage can make or break you. And that's it, folks. If you have any questions about home insurance coverage, I'm gonna be an expert, but I'm more than happy to answer any questions that I can. Drop your thoughts in the comments below. Let me know if you have any questions. And very important, if you found any value in this video, please hit that like button and subscribe. Your support means the world to us, and it inspires us to make more of these videos. Thanks for watching, and until next time.